Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.
I want to thank Micro for giving me the ability to do this video. He has a PAR reader, and that stands for photosynthetic active radiation. This right here is visual light oscilloscope, and basically an oscilloscope measures the wavelength on how certain things move, like sound, microwave, 5G, anything that falls on that electromagnetic spectrum. An oscilloscope looks at the ups and downs, the on and off cycles. This instrument can also measure the photosynthetic active radiation, PAR, or it can also measure the spectrometer, and that is the colors in the actual visual light wavelength. He pretty much does PAR reads. And when you're using the PAR meter, that is pretty much telling you what the light is doing at that particular moment, just like a still picture. But the visual light oscilloscope will show you how the light moves. It also gives you the color in the spectrum. Well, that's the spectrum is the color, and that's in the electromagnetic spectrum, the visual light wavelength. So in a nutshell, all you can really do with a PAR reader, and what Mr. Migro's stimulating here, is that is your car or is your light a gas saving car? And that's what this is. It's basically saying that, hey, this light can give you this much PAR with this much amount of wattage used. With the visual light oscilloscope, you can actually see how your light is moving. Plus, with the spectrometer, the oscilloscope can also show the PAR, just like the PAR meter. And with the PAR meter, they're only giving you one aspect of the functionality of the light, where the visual oscilloscope will show you exactly what the light is doing. PAR is like testing the MPGs of a car. How far can this car go on how much gas? Where the visual light oscilloscope is showing you how fast your car is moving. So if you want a faster car, you're going to have to pull out like a Mustang, supposed to gas saving like Cavalier when you're running a quarter mile. But us as normal growers, we don't have all this instruments and all this technology to do these tests, so we got to go by a rule of thumb. And the best rule of thumb, if you want to do the best light, I would get an HID as the primary and get a few LEDs as a supplementary. And that would be called what I call the dual spectrum. You're taking basically a couple of them wavelengths that's oscillating on that oscilloscope, and you're putting them together, because the different types of light varieties like CFLs, LEDs, HPSs all emit a different type of wavelength. So if you're combining them together, you're getting more of what is actual sun, because you're combining different wavelengths. Not necessarily just putting a whole bunch of different lights and saying, hey, we got the sun. No, you got to have different wavelengths. And when you're running a dual spectrum, most PAR readers like my phone can only read a certain light. You can only pick LED or HPS, and that's because of the wavelength. Our machinery and instruments can only read one wavelength at a time. Where that oscilloscope, you could put multiple lights and get your wavelength. But the downfall with the visual light oscilloscope is that it has to be in a controlled environment. Basically, no other electromagnetic spectrum interference could happen. So fans will mess with it, sound, other lights, cell phone signals, radio signals. So when you're using the oscilloscope, the light actually has to be in like a lead box, so none of the wavelengths is messing with your test. And when you add multiple lights and even multiple different type of light sources, what you're doing is you're eliminating the on and off cycles of light, because any type you have synthetic light, like a light bulb, there's on and off cycles because of the hertz. But these on and off cycles you will not see because light moves so fast, the speed of light. And that's how the James Webb Telescope can tell how far something is away by how far that light photon is traveling through space. So the Deep Webb James Telescope sees an infrared, and the Hubble Telescope sees more visual light. But they need them both together to get more of a complete picture because of the different wavelengths that are emitted from the universe. And then in later episodes, I would explain why capturing scatter or backscatter or reflecting it back to the primary object, reflecting scatter back to primary object, it'll help, but it's not going to make or break you. So when they test lights and they put them in spheres, or they put Marlin rolls around, or they test it in TETs, they're actually defaulting their test because all that scatter is just unwanted noise, and you do not want that in a test because you want to know what the primary beam, what the primary light is. So doing a par read to tell how much money you're going to save on $1 per watt, it really don't tell you much. It just says, hey, this light will save you energy. But is it really going to grow a plant? I will try to make more videos on the difference in how, if you want to try what an actual photon is going to do, or how much energy it's going to have, or how much energy is lost when you scatter. All this stuff is like physics, and physics will bore us, like chlorophyll, so it's going to be a lot of episodes. And everybody, thanks for watching this long video. Thanks for subscribing. Hey, I want to thank my girl for letting me letting TikTok, being able to share videos and all that. Well, everybody, have a good night. Take it easy.